Okay, so I've been wanting to make this video for months now, and I've been trying to find what my angle is, what I have to say that's a little bit different than some of the other creators on here that have talked about the DJI Mic 2. Now, let me just preface everything by saying, I think overall it is a very good microphone. However, some of its shortcomings are worth mentioning, and it's certain things that maybe other YouTubers and other content creators just haven't touched on. And because of that, I feel like I've been influenced to buy something that maybe isn't so good, and now I've developed this weird like love-hate relationship with the Mic 2, and I think we should talk about that. If you're new to the channel, my name is Zach. I am a novice at content creation and making videos for YouTube. However, at the same time I'm not. I actually used to run a channel that focused on my truck, which is something that I actually want to get more into this year, so maybe I'll do a little bit of that here and there, and maybe I'll put a link to that in the description. I'm not entirely sure yet, so don't quote me. Maybe I'll remove this entire section in post and no one will know. I primarily review camera equipment, camera gear, but I've been noticing a lot more lately, I'm actually reviewing microphones, which is not a bad thing by any means. I really enjoy audio, and that's kind of one of the big things when it comes to making a video, is making sure that your audio levels sound good, making sure that your video looks good, making sure that what you're telling to your audience is good. And now, I think that is probably one of my biggest shortcomings, is I focus so much on what the gear I use to create the videos is that I've kind of lost sight of exactly what it is that I'm trying to accomplish. And that, at the end of the day, is trying to provide an unbiased opinion to you, the end viewer. And I think today, maybe that's why I'm making this video. That's what we need to talk about. But before I talk about all the things that I don't like about the Mic 2, I want to talk about the pros. Pro number one, let's just talk about it right out of the gate, is the fact that it has internal recording. Now, this is super, super big for me because a lot of the work that I do in my full-time job involves client work or, you know, making sure that my audio is good and golden. Now, I went back to Greece in October. That was a great trip, by the way. I filmed a couple videos about that leading up to it, talking about what I was going to bring, and then I talked about some of the stuff that I learned after the fact. One of the things that I learned though is that having internal recording with your microphone is key, especially when you have a wireless microphone. Now, I could have had this fancy elaborate boom arm. However, given the circumstances of what I was filming and how I was going about it, a wireless lav mic just made the most amount of sense, especially for me. Now, with that, having a microphone that has that internal recording probably would have been wise, because unfortunately, this happened.
I served the Lord with great humility and with tears, although I was severely tested by the plots of. And you know that I have not hesitated to preach anything that would be helpful to you, but have taught you publicly and from house to house.
Beginner's mistake. The microphone itself, the audio quality was good. The Magic X-T1 is probably one of my favorite microphones, but it just doesn't have the strengths where I needed them. And one of those strengths being internal recording. The wireless range on that microphone, I want to say it's like 1,000 feet, but it's just, it has interference. And so a lot of those microphones, and even this microphone, is measured at line of sight. And that means that you have to have a clear line of sight. If someone walks in front of your camera or the microphone receiver, then unfortunately it interrupts that line of sight. And now you lose the audio, which is not good at the end of the day. It's not something that you want to deal with, because now that footage is practically unusable. That's probably the biggest pro of this mic, is that now I have that internal recording, and so I can record up to 15 hours. There are a few little caveats with that, and we'll talk about that later in the video, but you know, we're off to a good start. So let's kind of segue this into the second one, which is actually 32-bit audio. This is something really cool. I've been wanting a 32-bit float microphone in my arsenal for a while. I have a slew of different microphones. I have the newer CM28, I have the Holly Larkin 2, the Godox Magic X-T1, which we just talked about. A bunch of different microphones of various different calibers. However, none of them are 32-bit. The only 32-bit microphone in my wheelhouse is actually my Comica VM40, which is typically right above me right here. You guys can't see it because it's out of frame. It's on a boom arm, which is actually just a desk mounted tripod, but that thing actually does have internal recording and it's 32-bit, but it's a shotgun microphone. It's not a wireless mic. I can't just clip it to my shirt or someone else's shirt. And so because of that, I wanted something like the Mic 2. And so now having it, it does give me that ability to actually have better audio in post. So in the event that my audio peaks, I can kind of level head it out. If my audio is too low, I can always bring it up. When you do that, you will introduce some noise in post. I'm not going to jump too far into what 32-bit audio looks like. However, I know it's something that I've wanted, not just because everyone talks about it and says that, you know, that's the end all be all, but more so for the fact that I have been in several situations where my audio levels weren't set right in the camera, and that's really what it is for. It's for when you don't have the time to just start up the camera, click record, and go. It's one of those, you can kind of fix all those things. And so again, it's not perfect. You could always blow out the capsule in the microphone. There are shortcomings with that, and maybe we'll talk about that in another video. But the last big thing I want to talk about is the versatility that this microphone offers, because honestly, there's a lot. One of the biggest things, and this is actually something that my newer CM28 has, it has an external lav output or input technically, because what you can do is you can actually plug an external lav mic into the top of this microphone. If you have talent or a client and you want to mic them up discreetly, you can just clip the microphone to their back pocket or their front pocket even, or it can just be clipped to the back of their shirt, and then you can run that external lav mic to, their collar line. It's a little bit more discreet than the larger transmitter. Unfortunately, I did not opt to buy them because it's something that DJI includes separate, which is one of the cons that we're going to talk about in a minute. I really would have loved to have been able to try those out. I'm going to end up picking up something in the near future just for my own use case. Even if they don't include it in the base kit, you can always add it after the fact. Something else that's really cool is all the different ways you can mount this microphone. So as you can see, I actually have the microphone mounted inverse. So you can tell that because I have the little microphone magnet on the outside of my jacket. But if I wanted to, I could flip it around. You could see the microphone body. I just like a little bit more of a discreet look. You lose a little bit of the low ends, but it's something that I can increase in post. It's not too big of a deal. The other thing is if I wanted to clip this, so say for example, you have someone that you're wanting to mic up really quick and you don't want to put a magnet down their shirt, or maybe they're not comfortable with putting a magnet in a shirt, you can just clip it. It has an integrated clip, which in my opinion is a bit of a pro and a con. Sometimes having a clip is great, sometimes it isn't. In this case, being that it's integrated, it does add a little bit of bulk, so it does hang now. And this microphone's not light by any means, so it does hang quite a bit, especially if you have a shirt that's not as rigid, or depending on where you're clipping it. So maybe if you're wearing a hat like me, you could clip it to the bill of it. You have a bunch of different options, but that's one of the big ones. Now, this is probably the part of the video that I'm going to enjoy the least, but I think it's worth mentioning that there are cons with this microphone. And honestly, some of the cons may actually outweigh the pros, and you may or may not decide this microphone is for you. First off, I want to address the price. This is by far the most expensive wireless lav mic that I've ever bought on this channel, and just in general. I've bought several microphones myself. I've had several of them sent out to me. This was not one of them because DJI doesn't know this channel even exists. So if you do buy the kit, it's $350 US. It includes the basic necessities. So you get a charging case, you get 2 transmitters, a receiver, 2 dead cats, 2 different phone cables, as well as a cable for your camera and a charging cable. All of this does fit into the bag, but it does not fit into the charging case, unlike the DJI Mic Mini. The cost is up there, and as I'd mentioned earlier in this video, it also doesn't include the external lav mics. Those are something that you're going to have to buy separately at $40 a piece. On the contrary to that, the Rode Wireless Pro includes both of those wireless mics. I don't really understand why there's such a difference in the two costs. I mean, me personally, I think the aesthetics of the Mic 2 are better than the Wireless Pro. The Wireless Pro is something that I do want to pick up down the road, so maybe if that's something that you guys want to see a comparison of, let me know in the comments below. That would be something that I'd be interested in doing, but maybe if there's an interest in it. If it's just me, I don't need 2 wireless mics that do the same thing, but if people think that that's a better microphone, then maybe I'll test it out for myself. Who knows? Con number 2. This should probably be con number 1, but I made it con number 2 because the raw audio of this microphone isn't that great. And so actually I've been using this, it's post-process. Let's show you what it sounds like just straight out of the microphone. So now this is how the microphone sounds. There's no post-process. Everything that I've done up until this point has had an EQ on it, has had a denoise filter on it, and I think it sounds pretty good. Now, obviously I'm still learning. We're kind of improving in every way in every single video that I upload. If you look at my first videos to my videos now, my audio is vastly improved, at least in my opinion, but this doesn't sound good. So let's go ahead and switch back to how it should sound. Again, as I'd mentioned, I threw in an EQ, I put on a noise filter. Now it sounds better, but beforehand, when we were just listening to the raw audio, it's not great. It is, honestly, it's kind of subpar. Now, compared to my newer CM28, compared to the Fine M9 that I have, which funny enough, I made a comparison video of the M9 to the CM28 a couple days ago. Maybe it's even been a few weeks now that I'm thinking about it. And those two microphones, in my opinion, are indistinguishable from how the Mic 2 sounds just raw. That sounds really bad because both of those microphones are under $100 and this one is $350, meaning that it's even less than a third of the price for a probably just about the same sounding microphone with some tweaking versus no tweaking. Now, once you start tweaking this one in post, it does sound a lot better. However, just right out of the camera, it's not great. So if you wanted to use this for just running gun content creation, you just want to film and post straight to social media, you really can't. I mean, you could, but your audio, you may as well just use the internal audio from your microphone in the camera. At least that's what I would do. Or maybe a cheap shotgun microphone like the Rode Wireless Micro or Video Micro or whatever the mic Rode is. It's a tiny microphone. I've reviewed it before. It's not that great, but it's good enough. Something else that I do want to touch on as far as audio goes is the fact that all of the defaults with the receiver are set to on or set to the wrong setting, especially straight out of the box. So for example, when I did start recording with this microphone at first, when I wanted to make this video, I realized that the low cut filter was on. So that was something that I had to turn off because that took out all of the low tones from my microphone. And honestly, with that filter on, the microphone sounds like crap. I'm just gonna say it for what it's worth. The other thing, and we talked about this earlier, it has internal recording, which is 8 gigabytes, but it also reflects 24-bit, which is weird because I thought this microphone was advertised as 32, which it is. You just have to go and enable that setting after the fact. So if you do, just automatically, you unbox it, you go straight to recording, all of those internal recordings are going to be in 24-bit. In order to get 32-bit, you now have to go into the settings and then select it. And then your then your internal recording range goes from 15 hours to 11 and a half, or just shy of 11 and a half. So there's obviously a bit of a toll. The larger file sizes are the trade-off of how long you can record for, but it's one of those things that DJI markets in all of their stuff, and it says, oh, you know, it's good for 15 hours of internal recording. It has 32-bit. Technically, those two things are in different categories. You have 32-bit, but at less recording time, or you have more recording time, but at 24-bit audio. So really, it's one of those things, you know, if you're gonna advertise a microphone and say it's got 32-bit internal recording, then you should also say that, oh, it's based on these numbers, which is something that DJI doesn't do. It's a little bit misleading in my opinion. You know, it doesn't feel right to me when you do that. Overall, I do think this is a good microphone. I don't think that I will be using it on this channel as my preferred microphone. I will probably end up sticking with my Comica VM40 as, you know, my primary shotgun microphone. And then I'll probably stick to things like the Magic X-T1 or the Mic Mini or the Lark M2, just because those are better sounding microphones with much less overhead work. If I just want something to sound good, I'm not going for the Mic 2. It is not something that I'm just going to grab. If time is of the essence, this microphone is not for you, especially because it probably costs more than what the average new creator is willing to spend. Because at $350, there are so many other microphones that you can buy in this category. You have to be willing to put in the work. And I'm not here to cut corners by any means. You know, I spend a lot of time editing these videos, but I don't want to have to spend time just tweaking the heck out of my audio just for it to sound okay when I can use something else and it sounds much better with a fraction of the effort. If I'm doing something wrong, maybe there's another setting in the receiver that I forgot to turn on, or maybe I have to connect this to my phone and use the DJI Mimo app. Let me know in the comments below, because I feel like I'm missing something here. And maybe I'm not, maybe it's right in front of me and I'm just overlooking it. Or maybe you're like me and you've bought this microphone for yourself and you think too that it sounds a little bit flat, it's missing some punch to it. I'm not too thrilled with it. I'm going to keep it just purely for client work and for other instances like I showed you at the beginning of this video where my audio cut out and I wish that I would have had a backup track. There are other microphones that have internal recording so that you can do that, but this one kind of fits the bill for me. The external lav is a great option. I am going to have to pick 2 of those up though, so factor that into your cost. So if you really want to spend, what is it, like $430, then this might be the mic for you. But if you don't want to spend 400 plus to have a microphone that needs a lot of work and you have to buy things after the fact, maybe look elsewhere. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I know that you guys didn't have to click on this video, but you did anyways, and you got to listen to my rant. So I appreciate that. If you have stuck around all the way through the end, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, because in 2025, I have some really big goals that I want to hit, and be sure to drop a like if I didn't already say that. Anyways, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.